Okay, today I'm going to talk about storytelling and creativity. 이름이 뭐예요? 은혜? Based on our discussion last time, I developed this kind of attendance policy. Take a look at carefully, because this is one of the most important issue probably to you. So only one more exception. Only one more means you can use twice during the semester. If you are going to use the twice, I'm going to consider the second one as absence. For your fairness, I thought a lot, so this is the best thing I can do for you. For an absence may be used under emergency situation, as you suggested, such as reservist training, hospitalization, a company interview, or a funeral service during the semester. Pending, do you understand what is the pending, right? An official document. You should provide an official document. Otherwise, I will not consider any additional exception. Before using this additional exception, you should talk to me about your situation in advance. Make sense to you? I'm going to ignore this attendance policy because this is the formal documents. Basically, agreement between you and me. That's why I'm going to ignore this policy, okay? In our syllabus. I'm going to follow this rule very strictly during the semester. So any classroom policy you would like to suggest, welcome. So please let me know. So we already discussed the last time, so we don't have more time to discuss this issue. So I need to cover next content. So please email me. So I'm going to consider, your suggestion, okay? So from time to time, if I'm going to receive an email about classroom policy, I will have some time to discuss, those kind of, policy. Any question? So make sense to you? Sangmin, do you like it? You are the first person, right, to suggest. So you should like. Any other question regarding our attendance policy, which we developed based on last discussion? Okay, then let me start creativity and storytelling. As I said, this is first trial to develop this kind of course related to creativity and storytelling. So it's not that easy. Actually, during the last couple of months, our teaching assistants and I, develop this kind of course. We spend a lot of time to develop this course, but still you are going to suggest anything related to this kind of course at the end of the semester. So please think by yourself how to improve creativity, or how to improve student character by using this kind of course. First of all, I'm going to focus on storytelling. Why? should your story be used in learning and teaching? This is the part of FLC. FLC means faculty learning community. Several faculty members get together and we develop this kind of video clip. Take a look at first. It's going to be fun. You should, take a look at carefully what kind of role I'm doing, okay, during the video.
안녕하십니까. 저는 FLC 나는 스토리다 라는 팀의 팀장을 맡고 있는 조영원입니다. 여러분은 강의를 어떻게 하십니까? 저희는 강의를 하는 교수도 즐겁고 듣는 학생도 즐거워할 수 있는 방법을 찾아서 특별히 스토리텔링이라고 하는 방법을 연구해 보았습니다. 이것을 통해서 저희가 준비한 두 가지 극이 있는데요. 지금부터 그 화면을 보시도록 하겠습니다. 자, 여러분 한번 강의실로 이동해 보실까요? 가시죠. 네, 드디어 이제 강의실로 들어왔습니다. 이제 여러분이 보실 강의는 고려대 새롭게 뜨는 명강사 홍창한 교수의 철학 강의입니다. 주제는 정의와 관계인데요. 여기에 아주 훌륭한 학생들이 강의실의 모습을 여러분 한번 보시기를 바랍니다. 자, 지금부터 홍창한 교수를 소개하겠습니다. 박수로 맞아 주십시오. 홍창한 교수.
오늘 여러분들 우리가 일상생활에서 가지고 있는 부독적인 사고, 가지고 있는 두 가지 형태에 대해서 얘기를 해보도록 하겠습니다. 일반적으로 부독적인 사고는 정의 중심적인 사고와 관계 중심적인 사고로 나누게 되죠. 자, 이런 얘기 잘 들어보지 않으셨겠지만 하나 예를 통해서 한번 이해를 해보도록 합시다. 자, 다음에 예를 봅시다. 친한 친구가 차를 몰고 가다가 과속을 해서 보행자를 치었습니다. 증인은 나밖에 없고 내가 사실대로 이야기하면 친구는 큰 벌을 받게 되고, 반대로 친구의 과속 사실을 숨길 경우에는 친구는 가벼운 처벌을 받게 되는 거예요. 자, 여러분이 그런 상황에 처했을 때 여러분들은 어떻게 하시겠습니까? 자, 좀 집중하시기 바랍니다. 자, 똑같은 예를 통해서 서베이를 했는데 굉장히 재미있는 통계 자료가 있어요. 자, 캐나다, 미국, 영국 같은 경우 우리가 일반적으로 선진국으로 얘기하는 그런 나라 같은 경우 90%에 가까운 사람들이 이 경우에 사실을 말한다고 얘기를 했습니다. 그러나 한국을 한번 보시죠. 한국은 중국, 인도네시아, 러시아와 똑같이 50% 이하의 사람들이 이 경우에 사실을 얘기한다고 말을 했습니다. 자, 여러분들 이 데이터가 보여주는 것처럼 똑같은 예에 대해서 관계 중심적인 사고를 하는 그런 비율과 정의 중심적인 사고를 하는 비율이 굉장히 큰 차이가 있게 되죠. 자, 여러분들, 자, 집중하세요. 제가 지금 뭐 하고 있습니까? 무슨 얘기를 하고 있죠? 김태진 학생, 제가 뭘 하고 있습니까?
지금 잘 안 들어서 한 번만 더 말씀해 주세요.
여러분들 그 도수가 앞에서 강의를 하는데 이런 자세가 뭡니까 지금? 이용 학생, 제가 지금 뭐 하고 있죠? 네. 잘 이해가 네. 자, 여러분들이 잘 이해되셨습니까? 우리 새로운 상황을 통해서 한번 두 가지 상황 차이점에 대해서 얘기를 해보도록 합시다. 자, 롤플레이가 필요하니까 다 일어나서 앞으로 다 나오세요. 자, 자, 앞으로 나오세요. 추워. 신호가 왜 이렇게 안 바뀐 거야? 아직도 빨간불이야. 진짜 급해 죽겠는데. 빨리 가야 되는데. 추워.
아빠 너무 추워요.
그건 안 되지. 빨간불이니까 건널 수 없고 파란불이 되면 건너야지. 그게 우리 사회의 도덕이고 기본이거든. 그만들 기다리자, 우리가.
하긴 저분들 우리보다
상황이 맞긴 했죠. 상황을 통해서 정의 중심적인 사고와 관계 중심적인 사고의 차이점에 대해서 우리가 다시 공부를 해봤는데 잘 이해를 했는지 제가 확인을 하겠습니다. 자, 정의 중심적인 사고가 무엇입니까?
네, 선생님 아까 그 상황극에서 빨간불에는 길을 건너지 말아야 된다라고 하는 규범을 지키는 것, 그것이 정의중심적인 사고라고 생각합니다.
네, 맞습니다. 잘 이해가 됩니다. 자, 다음은 이제 관계 중심적인 사고가 무엇입니까? 저한테 물었네. 다음엔 또 여학생, 네, 김정 학생 얘기해보세요.
네, 아까 상황극에서 아빠가 딸에게 관계를 생각해서 좀 바쁜 게 있었나 보다. 좀 바쁠 때는 건너도 된다라는 얘기를 하는 게 관계주심적 사고라고 생각합니다.
네. 여러분들 정말 잘 이해를 하신 것 같아요. 제가 진작부터 이런 방식 수업을 할 것이 있어요. 여러분들 정말 좋으시죠? 이해가 잘 되시죠?
네.
한잔 있어요, 이경 학생?
네, 교수님. 처음에 강의로 들었을 때는 굉장히 지루하고, 그 다음에 따분하고, 그 다음에 이해하기 좀 어려웠거든요. 근데 실제로 수학극을 하니까 머리에 쏙쏙 들어오는
네, 고맙습니다. 저도 다음에는 좀 더 이런 여러 가지 상황극과 스토리텔링 기법을 통해서 어려운 이유를 여러분들에게 쉽게 전달할 수 있도록 더 노력을 하겠습니다. 감사합니다.
네, 저희는 오늘 스토리텔링을 이용한 강의 기법에 대해서 살펴보았습니다. 처음 보셨던 강의 방식이 전통적인 지식 전달 위주, 설명 위주의 강의 방식이었고요. 여러분들 보셨다시피 학생들의 반응을 이끌어내기가 상당히 어려웠습니다. 저희는 오늘 정의와 관계라는 주제를 가지고 스토리를 만들어 봤는데요. 그 스토리는 전제, 갈등 구조, 긴장감 해소, 그 다음에 해결책이라는 그런 스토리 라인을 가진 그 스토리텔링 기법을 강의에 적용을 해보았습니다. 앞으로 이런 스토리텔링을 활용한 강의가 많이 확산되기를 바라면서 저희는 마무리하도록 하겠습니다. 그러면 오늘 동영상 촬영에 협조해주신 교수님들을 소개시켜드리겠습니다. 네, 교수 역할을 해주신 성창원 교수님이십니다. 네, 아빠 역할을 해주신 이정호 교수님이십니다. 네, 딸 역할을 해주신 김태진 교수님입니다. 네, 지나가는 선생님 역할을 해주신 네, 저희 팀의 팀장시자 나레이션을 맡아주신 조영원 교수님이십니다. 자, 오늘 참여 출연해주신 역사교육과 두 학생을
여러분 모두가 위에서 스토리 나는 스토리가
Thank you. So, last semester, several faculty members got together and we discussed a lot, and then how to incorporate a story into our, teaching courses. And we discussed a lot, what is the advantage, what is the disadvantage, what kind of role we should play, during the class. And then we developed this kind of, video clip. So I hope you enjoyed it. But, so as I pointed out, at the end of, our discussion, FLC discussion, last semester, one of the dilemma, there is big differences between social science and natural science, as you can see. So how to apply? My basic question is, probably social science is a good subject, to apply or to incorporate, storytelling into the course, right? But, not natural science, from one perspective. That's going to be problematic. So that's why I started these questions. Why should your mathematical story be used in the teaching and learning of mathematics, and how? That's going to be one of the big questions I'm going to ask during this semester, okay? Probably you can find out, an answer by yourself, okay? But I'm going to provide, some related material during the semester. You can think by yourself, or even as a group, how to develop a storytelling skill in a mathematics course. From my perspective, one of the most important, thing you need to consider, probably storytelling method can make mathematics more accessible to students. Thus, there is potential for students better understanding of the material of the mathematics curriculum. Obviously, right? If you're going to provide, what can you feel about the first video clip which you made? I think you're much more exciting, right? Much more easier for you to understand what is going on, right? Even it's a philosophy, right, course. It's a boring course, right, in a sense. But, those kind of video clip probably provide students, much more fun or just some interest in the subject. Also, I think, as I pointed out, it can promote student interest in any subject if you are going to use storytelling methods appropriately, right? But it should include some content related to any subject. Also, it's going to be enhanced in attractiveness to students. Also, it can make mathematics more sensible. Do you agree with that? After explaining, this whole, big picture, I'm going to provide some concrete example in mathematics. So think about how can you apply storytelling method to mathematics, even before, introducing, some content which I'm going to provide. Also, make students perceive mathematics to be more persuasive. Think about, what kind of, storytelling is possible in mathematics. How can you apply? Just think by yourself before explaining my perspective on storytelling. And this is the introduction about the relationship between mathematics and storytelling. Finally, definitely, there is a relationship between creativity and storytelling. That's why I'm telling you storytelling, right? So therefore, the last one it's gonna be improve student creativity in learning mathematics. Anyway, that's my perspective. You may maybe disagree with this kind of perspective, but you need to think by yourself. Why I'm telling this kind of perspective as a math educator. Here is my perspective. You may develop, from this perspective, your own, perspective on, storytelling. I think, if you're going to use any mathematical story, probably one of the good sources is going to be history as the background for mathematical activity. Right? Next class, I'm going to bring some, video clip including the history of math as a background for mathematical activity. So after looking at some history, maybe a student may improve, right? Their interest in mathematics subject. That's why I'm thinking one of the good source, history of math, right? Also, you can easily find out some video clip related to history of math. What else? Also, some story that frame mathematical fact, procedure, and problem-solving process in real-life context, right? Some story which can be developed from the real-life context, right? May help students improve, right? Their creativity. What else can you think of? Maybe you can think of these two, I think, probably easily. What else can you think of? History of math, real life context based on story. What else? Nothing? Someone? Can you think of any story other than that? Just think about yourself, what kind of story can be used in teaching and learning mathematics. Maybe this is going to be a big question, probably you should ask yourself during the semesters. At the end of semester, if you are going to provide a good source, definitely you are going to get a good grade, right? In terms of evaluation in your good presentation. I think another one probably structure of stories, history, basic concept, and procedure and application. I mean, so by using the structure of story means so you can develop just a piece of story in the whole course, right? But that's kind of discrete between two courses. Instead, you can develop several kind of story, right, which can be connected during the whole courses. Make sense to you? So this kind of structure might help students to improve their creativity, right? Instead of some boring courses. Here is one source. I'm going to show you how we can apply a storytelling method to mathematics. This one is this source is comes from the paper of creative writing in trigonometry by Barnes in 1999. By the way, if your major is not math education, please check your mathematical background, because I'm going to assume during the semester there is no problem at all in terms of your mathematical background to take this course. So as I said, in the syllabus, from time to time, I'm going to collect during the semester miscellaneous item. But those miscellaneous items, I'm going to assume you already took calculus, even analysis or abstract algebra. And then I'm going to assign some homework. So if your mathematical background is not strong enough to take this course, you should cover by yourself, okay? If you already took many mathematics course, I don't think there is a problem. But if this is your first mathematics course, that's going to be problematic. This is the purpose of this kind of story. The author described at the beginning of the paper how to model data with a cosine curve and elevate student fears by assigning interesting problem. A great way to exercise student creativity. That's why I selected this story. Here is the problem. Even though a little bit complicated, but whole story is not that complicated. Very simple. Take a look at it. Basically, this is introduction before starting actual story. Simon is a farmer who loves taking afternoon naps outside in his heaven. He's very good at sneaking away for his nap without his wife Sarah knowing about it. But unfortunately, he snored. According to Sarah, she can hear him snoring without even going outside because it is so loud. Make sense to you? But Simon kept insisting that she heard the pigs snoring, not him. Do you understand? Debate between husband and wife. Sarah decided to end all argument by finding out for herself whether or not Simon snores like a pig. She loves playing with electronic equipment, and she devised an instrument that registers on a scale from -10 to 10 the sounds emitted while someone snores. Make sense? She developed kind of an instrument to record, some, snoring sounds. The positive value occurs when air is sucked in, and the negative value occurs when air is blown out, right? Snoring is, blowing out, sucking in. So those kind of, repeating process. Also, she recorded both her husband and the pig snoring one night, and she discovered the following. This is the assumption, okay? Problem, before problem solving. The loudest that Simon snored on this scale is 7, and he spent the same amount of time breathing in as he does breathing out. In 1 minute, he snored the same number of times as the largest last digit of anyone's social security number in your group. Basically, after making, this is group project, by the way, okay? After making group, so this assignment gave students what kind of information? Basically, a different kind of information depending on each group. Do you understand what is the social security number? In the United States, it is called SSN. That is basically a person's identification number, right? In Korea, I think it is called registered 주민등록번호. Do you know? So, and then anyone's social security number in Korea, we can use 주민등록번호, right? The largest last digit. Probably it's a dependent group. Anyway, the pig also breathe in as much as they breathe out, and the smallest number registered for them is -6. Between any two consecutive snores, the pig takes as many seconds as the smallest non-zero last digit of anyone's social security number in your group. This one is, as you can see, smallest non-zero last digit. This one is the largest last digit of any one social security number. So as you can see, in order to develop mathematical story, background should be a little bit complicated, right? Because in order to develop mathematical background, so you need to introduce, basic mathematical concept. You also need to introduce, some related to fact, right? You can use in your problem solving. But still, it's doable, right? This is, by the way, for high school student group project. So in your group project, you need to specify, by the way. Otherwise, student may confuse, right? What kind of content I should include, right? So you should clarify what kind of content, right, include. So therefore, this kind of description should be included before conducting any group project. For instance, here, assume that you also know that both set of information can be approximated by the equation y equals a times cosine bt to fit the data. Write a conversation between Sarah and Simon in which Sarah explained her finding to Simon. Your script must include, first, amplitude of both pigs snore and Simon snore. Do you understand what is the amplitude, right? Basically, this is basic concept you should understand in your understanding of mathematics. And second one, the period of both snore decimal approximation are fine. Do you understand, right? What is it mathematically? And third, equation of the form y equals a times cosine bt with the value of a and b filled in for each. Make sense? So after probably this kind of project should be conducted after finishing basic concept of trigonometry, right? Otherwise, student may have some difficulty. But they should understand basic concept of trigonometry as well as amplitude and period, right? What is the role of A and B in this case? Make sense? An explanation of how you obtain your equation. Basically, you can ask your student what kind of justification you can provide, right, in your project. And a sketch of both equations on the same axis. Do you understand? Then you can compare, right? Which one is which? And finally, you can ask a comparison between the two, one snore louder, one breather, or breathe slower. Do you understand the whole story? Any question about group project? If it's going to be Korean, it might be easier. But in English, it might be more difficult to you. Any question regarding group project? Then why don't you explain to other student, for other student? 호구나. Why don't you explain? Do you understand what is the project? Huh? 설명해봐. Can you explain to us? Louder. I cannot hear you.
사이먼이랑 대시 혹은 둘이 비교를 하기 위해서 그게 측정하는 기계를 가지고 그걸 코사인 그래프를 나타냈을 때 측정한 결과는 진폭이나 아니면 주기 같은 거랑 그거에 의해서 코사인 그래프가 결정되니까 그걸 통해서 이제 비교를 해보는 프로젝트 같습니다.
Do you understand? That's going to be main point, right? There are two sounds. right? Two snoring sound. One is pig, the other is Simon, right? But how can you prove the sound you hear comes from Simon? Make sense? That's going to be key point in this project, right? But you should provide, as a group, so some evidence why the sound comes from Simon instead of pig. Okay? Do you understand? Two debate, right, in this story, right? Sarah insists, right? That sound comes from what? Simon. But Simon told her what? That sounds from where? Pig, right? That's why she need to prove mathematically. This is going to be story here. Make sense to you? The whole story? Any question? It's not that complicated, by the way, right? It's very simple. Even I explain a lot of content, right? It's not that complicated. Very simple question, right? Okay. Here is one excellent student paper. Actually, not one student as a group paper. Simon, I'm going to make a story there. Entered the farmhouse from the left, looking somewhat drowsy, having just awakened from an afternoon nap outside in the hammock. Sarah is sitting at the kitchen table drinking a cup of coffee. Simon, maybe 지영이 네가 읽어볼래? Okay, dear, what is it? 읽어봐.
I know that you have been asleep. I could hear you snoring all day. Wait inside.
Sarah, you have been through this. I have been walking on the fence in the pastures. It is the pig that you hear snoring.
Simon, I can prove that it was not the pigs. I have devised an instrument that will register the sound of a snore. Last night I recorded you and the pig snoring. I would like to show you my findings.
Okay, you need to take a look at carefully. This is A, right? In group project description, right? Teacher specifically asked A, B, C, D, E, F, right? What kind of content in your group project you should include, right? Therefore, students develop, concrete, right? Comment on each category. 읽기 싫어?
아, 이거 이거야.
근데 가희가 읽어봐.
Simon, your snores measure up to 1 on my instrument, meaning the amplitude of your snores was 1. 1, was it? 7.
Mm-hmm.
The smallest number registered for the pigs was A minus B? Minus 6. And since they breathe in as much as they breathe out, the amplitude of what? The amplitude of their snores was 6.
Actually, it is 6. 6 minus 6. 7 and 7.
7 and was minus 6.
Simon is between 6. This is basically amplitude, right? students are supposed to what? Describe, amplitude, right? Which one? First, Simon, right? Between 7 and -7. And what is it? Pigs. 6. But you need to remember at the beginning of the project what teacher asked student to do in terms of amplitude. In your group, at the end of your social security number, right? The largest number, non-zero smallest number. It's going to be different, right? For instance, in your group, think about it, right? The largest number 9, the smallest number probably 1 or 2, because non-zero number, right? That's why it's really depending on what? Group members, right? This is going to be one of the important issues you need to think about. Okay, this is A. Can you remember what is B?
The largest last digit of anyone's social security number in our group is 8.
Mm-hmm.
Simon, you snored 8 times in 1 minute. If I divided 60 seconds by 8, the period of your snores is 1.5 seconds.
7.5.
7.5 seconds. The smallest non-zero last digit on anyone's social security number in our group is
1.
1.
Mm-hmm.
The pig snores 1 time in 1 second, therefore the period would be 1 second for the pigs.
Do you understand? The period, right? The largest number, the smallest number in terms of period. This is part B and part C.
For C
and D. Mm-hmm.
Simon, I put the data in the form of the equation y equals a cosine bt. The equation for your snoring is y equals 7 times cosine 4 pi divided by 15t. Mm-hmm. The a value comes from the amplitude of 7. I got the b value by using 2 pi divided by b equals 7.5. Since 7.5 is the period, the b comes out to be 4 pi divided by 15. The equation for the pig snoring is y equals b times cosine 2 pi t. The a value comes from the amplitude of b. I got the b value by using 2 pi divided by b equals 1. Since 1 is the period, the b comes out to 2 pi.
Can you see that? Mathematically, do you understand, right? Basically, you're supposed to find out the value of b, right? But how can you find out? In terms of this numbering, you can easily find out. By the way, just for your reference, just English expression. You just simplify 2 divided by 5. Instead, you can use just 2 over 5. Or 2/5. Either way is fine, okay? But the A or V over can be used. But in mathematics class, every faculty member are using over because we cannot say A divided by B. It's too long pronunciation, right? But in university, we are using. I have been taught mathematics course for 2.5 years in the United States. So every faculty member using just over. But even it's informal, much more convenient. That's why we are using over. Anyway, so do you understand C and D, right? The story developments. What about then? Take a look at the graph and then their description.
E. Sarah hands Simon a piece of paper. Simon, look at this sketch of the equations of both of your snore and the pig's snores.
What is it? This is Simon's, right? Snoring cosine curve, right? What is it? The other one is pig. Do you agree with that? Usually, man's snoring is long, right? In terms of period, right? But what about the pigs? Right? That's why, in terms of graph, right, they should be different. Do you agree with that? Make sense? And finally, what?
F. Simon, the largest amplitude shows that you snore louder than the pigs. The different periods and the sketches of the equation show that you and the pigs have very different snoring patterns. You snore much slower with deeper breath. The pigs take shorter, faster breath. The snoring I'm hearing from outside is slow and loud, not at all like the pigs snore. However, it is very much like your snore.
Do you understand? Here is the key point, right? Student understood, right? Here, slower with deeper breath, right? But what about the pig? Shorter and faster breath, right? This is one of the important, concept in terms of sine and cosine, functions graph, right? But this is kind of, interesting project, maybe. So there is the, mathematically there is a, deep concept, right, to understand, sine and cosine function. What can you say?
Looking so much done. This is very interesting, Sarah. You have proved to me it isn't the big pig snoring. It could be that dog.
So what can Sarah say then?
Oh my god, I give up.
It was fun? What do you think? This kind of story as a group projects. Even though sine and cosine function is very complicated concept, you also maybe teach amplitude and period, right? In sine and cosine function, by using just your paper pencil, right? So you need to measure what is the period, what is the amplitude. Also, you need to characterize the the property of the cosine function y equal to a times cosine bt, or even y equal to a times sine bt, right? But by using this kind of project, students develop their own conceptions, right, about the sine and cosine function related to period and amplitude and other property related to the graph y equal to a times cosine bt. Any question regarding this story problem? Makes more sense to you? Anyway, I'm going to continue to introduce, storytelling methods in mathematics next time. Probably next time I'm going to bring some video clip include, history of math. So you can use just a piece of, video clip to introduce any mathematical problem or mathematical concept or mathematical procedures. So here is the content, from the next class to maybe by next Wednesday. So 3 class is going to be covered by using video clip, but the next, I think Thursday or the following Wednesday, I'm going to bring some history related to calculus. So you are going to have some debate time together. Okay. Anyway, that's going to be my plan, during the next 2 weeks. That's why I'm emphasizing, if you do not have strong background in mathematics, it may be difficult for you to understand the whole content. I'm going to use, content related to calculus from time to time, maybe more advanced mathematics. So that's why you should be careful. History of math. Think about, probably by using history of math, you can use 3 different kind of story. The first one, how have mathematical concepts developed, right? This is one of the easiest way to use history of math in your storytelling method, in your teaching. What else? How have current mathematical structure appeared, right? In mathematics, there is structure, right? But historically, right, those kind of structures have been developed by mathematicians. You can use those kind of, maybe history for student better understanding of mathematics. What else? What is an issue in the history of math? By using the word an issue, I'm talking about, some psychological aspect or some learning difficulty. Okay, you can use. Anyway, during the semester, I'm going to show you some video clip. How can you apply history of math to storytelling methods in teaching mathematics? Do you understand the role of history of math in using storytelling? Make sense to you? Three different kind of role by using history of math. Kaya, make sense to you? Three different kind of role. Also, we can combine historical and psychological perspective. For instance, you do know learning theory. If you took the last semester my mathematics curriculum course, right? I emphasized learning theory, different kind of learning theory. You can combine, right? After combining historical and psychological perspective, you can use or you can make a story related to teaching mathematics. That's going to be maybe one way you can use during the semester for your group projects. What else? Oh, let me tell you, for instance, for your better understanding, I'm going to give you one example. Garner's inductive leaf versus qualitatively special. Is there anyone who presented last semester Garner theory? Who presented? No one here? Jie? Did you do? What is it? Garner inductive leaf. Related to creativity. Can you remember? Inductive, induction, 기납. What is the meaning of the 기납적 도약? I asked probably at the end of your presentation, right? I can remember. So now, can you answer? Related to creativity, right? Garner emphasized in inductive leaf related to creativity. Can you explain to us? No?
그렇게만 기억하고 분석적으로 창의성을 기를 수 있다.
Right. So Garner emphasized, we're supposed to use the inductive leaf to improve student, creativity. Basically, inductive leaf, student first need to develop some foundational knowledge in order to make a creativity, any creativity. Therefore, this is much more, Garner see basically creativity as cognitive process, right? However, some people debate about that. Some people see creativity is qualitatively different from other cognitive science, other cognitive process. Make sense? But they both have different perspective, right? Garner's point of view is different from creativity as a qualitatively a special one, right? They are different. But anyway, from your perspective, what is the better way in terms of developing, creativity in students' mind? Oops. Anyway, second method can be used, for storytelling and creativity. What about the last one? Story about application of math to real-life context. As I said, you can use modeling process, right? After, developing a modeling process, you can use, those kind of story in mathematical context. As I pointed out, you also develop some structural story by using several unit plan through simultaneous use of both history of math and its application to real-life context. So in other words, you can combine both of them. In one content, you can use maybe several story about history of math as well as real-life context application, right? And then you can structuralize whole teaching process by using this kind of structural story. So make sense to you? Any question regarding this? Basically, I'm emphasizing 4 different kind of category related to storytelling and creativity. Maybe if you're going to be interested in storytelling and creativity in your group presentation, maybe you can select one of them and then you need to think by yourself, okay, what kind of skill. Or even you can develop your own idea. Probably this kind of story might be a good idea, even I didn't explain, right? Think by yourself. But anyway, from my perspective, at least we can categorize 4 different kind of story we can use in teaching mathematics. Make sense to you? Any question? Noel? Make sense to you? Any question? Which is not clear? Yes.
상상하고 지어내는 것도 되게 포함되는
Yeah, any story is possible, but as I emphasized at the beginning of my presentation, how can a story be applied to mathematics, not just the regular content, right? So, story you make should include what? Mathematical content, right? You're supposed to teach. Make sense to you? So story should be, mathematics should be foundational in your story. Otherwise, there is no mathematics, right? That's not the, our point, right? Or our, purpose to use a story. After listening a story, student may be confused about the mathematical content. It's not going to be useful, right? Make sense? So story should be carefully used. This is the additional tool to emphasize mathematics, right? Or to improve student interest in mathematics. If you're going to use the long way, maybe it's not a good idea, right? For you to use a story in your teaching. Any other question? According to your syllabus, until April 18, you are going to focus on storytelling and creativity. During the almost 1.5 months, you should think by yourself how to develop or even use a story in teaching mathematics. That's going to be big one question. Okay? That's one big question you should ask yourself, and you should develop your own idea for your group presentation. But during the next couple of weeks, I'm going to explain, some concrete example related to this category. Make sense to you? This is references. If you want, you can take a look at these papers. Any question? In my teaching, I'm always use some 5-minute period for you to ask any question regarding the content. That's why usually 5 minutes leftovers after finishing my lectures. But if there is no question, maybe you are going to finish class earlier. Any question related to content or any other issue? Oh, by the way, so 이한세 and 이민호 and 이민호, the other 이민호, yeah. 3 of you are supposed to fill out, the survey, the pre-survey. So that's going to be part of your, final grade. So I already explained in last class. So you're supposed to fill out in a survey. We are going to fill out pre-survey and post-survey. Okay, that's going to be part of your, your score. So you should fill out. And after finishing the class, please come to me. So any questions? Okay, then that's all for today.